the flesh areas, you can just paint close to an edge and leave it, and it's lined for you. You'll automatically get some definition, which is a very great benefit for army painters.
Quite funny, you know, because some of the things I've seen with people painting and doing painting videos, it tends to be one person working solo with a remote control. And I think what's useful having the kind of two-person, two-box method is that you do get a lot more freedom to move around, thankfully.
Yeah.
You'll be pleased to know, because Rob can't actually see kind of how this is coming out, but it is actually at the actual video end, it looks really quite good.
It's that's the first coat done for the head. To leave that to dry properly, just move on to another area. So we'll move on to the arm. You can see the patchiness underneath where the black undercoat is showing through.
So normally how many coats are you going to use for the skin? 2 or 3? Or
2 or 3. I mean, some painters, they really do water down the paints. But just for, I mean, this is for army purposes. It's not going to win you any Golden Demon awards, unfortunately.
I suppose for those people who really don't know, the Golden Demons are kind of the benchmark de facto, aren't they, for figure painters? So. This is kind of what everyone who's been spending money kind of justifies their existence with, really, when it comes to figure painting, I think.
Yeah. I mean, all these techniques are used by the high-end painters. It's just varying degrees. I mean, you know, I'm not going to paint 12 layers of shade because it's just impractical when it comes to army terms.
Sure.
So I would use like two layers of shade, 2 layers of highlight, and use a unifying wash to soften the transitions between the colours.
It's amazing, even now though, you can see how parts are starting to stand out really well and give some really nice definition to it.
Yeah, it's these Ork miniatures are very, very good to paint. The detail is really, really nice. The only exception to that is in the looters and burners set, the arm supporting the gun is very square. The hand is very square. There's not much detail on it, and it just tends to stand out. And you can see my paint is separating. So what I'm going to do is mix it together. If you are going to use your brush to mix it together, don't jab down. Use it sideways and use it very gently. I mean, it is wear and tear on the bristles, but it's sort of minimising it. Do a bit more water. So yeah, I mean, just keep it nice and runny. The consistency you're aiming for is skimmed milk, maybe a bit thinner. So right. Very dynamic pose, very awkward to paint. That'll do for that. I've probably thinned it a bit too much, but...
Well, like you say, it's easier to work from a thinned paint and add more layers than it is to work with blobby paint, I suppose.
Yeah, it provides a much smoother coat. Yeah, I've thinned it a bit too much, so what I will do is just add a bit more goblin green from the pot. just one dab should do. That should thicken it up quite nicely. You can get mediums to thin and thicken paint, flow extenders and stuff, but my brush spends as much time in my mouth as it does on the miniature, so...
Yeah, it's probably best really not to coat it with exciting chemicals.
Yeah, definitely stick with the Citadel paints though, because I personally know for a fact that they're non-toxic. The new foundation paints taste awful. Certainly don't taste as nice as the acrylic paints, which is an odd thing to say.
Please note, kids, that Prime Up does not endorse drinking your Games Workshop paints.
Oh no, it's just when you
Absolutely.
You will get some paint in your mouth when you're forming it. I mean, you don't have to do that. You can.
Oh, absolutely. It's a kind of thing that all artists do, I think.
Yeah. I mean, if you want, you can just run it over you can build the point up by running it over the
kitchen towel.
The kitchen towel, yeah. Mine went blank there, but it's just easier to.
The Mickey Mouse kitchen towel.
And the good thing about the Orks is the muscles are very well defined, so you can get a really good impression of volume. It sounds a bit strange, but you really have to force the three-dimensional nature of it to make it look three-dimensional, which is very odd because it is a three-dimensional object. It exists in the real world.
In X, Y, and Z space.
Yeah. But it has to be exaggerated because it's such a small thing, and but it doesn't have to be super perfect in in Army Standard. It's got to look, if you want it to look good, you want it to look good from 3 feet away, because that's where they'll mostly be seen, and then you can do your rank and file types, like that, and you can do your heroes, spend more time, go a bit more layered and have a nice centerpiece model. If you're using Space Marines, you have a centerpiece on a Dreadnought, because they're really groovy models. Or
Dreadnoughts are by far one of the nicest models ever.
Yeah, or a Land Raider, like really spend time on it.
Which I imagine we'll be doing at some point in the future.
Yeah, I hear you've got a Baneblade knocking about.
I have. Well, I've got a partially assembled Baneblade knocking about, because of course I, not being a putting together Games Workshop models kind of person, started assembling it before hearing the words of wisdom that Rob's came out with, and therefore the part that I've assembled will no doubt look like, well, it'll look a bit orky, possibly,
well,
rather than imperial.
Do it as a stolen vehicle then, and we could do a workshop on converting it into a looted vehicle.
Well, perhaps. Could be fun. I can't even imagine the amount of damage that Orks could do with a looted Baneblade, to be quite honest.
Okay, so we've got the initial coats on, and look, you can see they're looking a bit patchy, the raised areas especially. So all we do is we repeat the process. Okay, while we've been off camera, I have added 2 more coats to the base coat, just following exactly the same methods and principles, just to try and get an even coat over it. It's still a touch patchy in places, but that will get covered by the highlights and the shading. The next step we're going to take is the shading. What we're going to do is we're going to do one lot of mix of the Goblin green with the Dark Angels green, and then one lot with just the Dark Angels green. So there's a difference in colour. We're going to be using a simple layering method. Once you get this down pat, you'll be able to put out a miniature every 2 or 3 hours from end to end. So that's your army in under a month.
Yeah, I should point out to people, there's no shortcuts really when you're making yourself an army for the very first time. A lot of people are going to kind of approach this and they're going to think, well, we can spray on the underpaint, we can, I said this jokingly before, we can kind of stick our models on a lollipop stick and dunk them in a pot of Dulux, shake them vigorously, and then stick them in a pot of ink, and they're going to look okay.